with the superintendent and their boards and our board, joint two-board meeting, and we have found it extremely productive. Sometimes the school board members don't even know what's going on. And when we start showing data in terms of how many students do we have in dual enrollment, how many do we have in terms of our capture rate, and what does the success rate of dual enrollment students look like, you should see the excitement in their eyes and they want more. Okay? So we've done this even before it was interrupted by the pandemic. We restarted the curriculum goals. And so we said we would like to have his office coordinate, so that instead of meeting with each school district separate, we want to meet with all of them together. I'm always a believer that the whole is much larger than the sum of the components. Okay? Have you ever heard me say that we have 3 colleges? If they are 100% efficient, 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. That's what you learn in math. When they are 50% efficient, 1 + 1 + 1 becomes 1.5. Now, I believe if we create a platform for a cohesive, integrated, unified system as one body, one district, made up of 3 colleges and a district office, all synchronized to support each other, we can have a system where 1 + 1 + 1 equals 5. Okay. And that's not imaginary, that's possible. So the same way, we think that if we bring all the school boards together, then there can be some synergy. There can be some exchange of best practices. There can be some teams working together. They can come up with ideas on how do we capture this 45% of our students who are disappearing. So that's our next plan, to have that kind of meeting. So my strategy is going to be, first we'll meet with the 6 superintendents, okay? Because they are the head of operations, 6 superintendents, and we're going to present the data, show them the magnitude and the gravity of the situation. Usually, people are much more willing to cooperate when they see the magnitude and the gravity of the situation. Then we can dispel all the sideways that people are fighting about small details. We have to look how big the problem is and how serious it is. Because of our poor access, the Public Policy Institute says, even though we live in the 4th largest global economy in the world, one of the richest countries, there are only 3 countries richer than California: United States, Japan, and China. They're richer than any other country in the planet, and yet our wealth, when we measure it in per capita income, we are as wealthy as Alabama. Orange County is as wealthy as the state of Massachusetts. San Diego is as wealthy as the state of Maryland. Los Angeles is as wealthy as the state of Washington. Okay? So that's why this is serious. We have disproportionate amount of poverty in our area. So we're going to have that. Then we're going to add to that mix Kim Wilcox and Tomas Morales, because we have to complete the cycle. So they too must be part of this dialogue. We have to all act together. They too must be prepared to remove barriers for our students to transfer. And then we'll bring all the board members together. So that's a big deal. Now, so far we're doing very well with our limited capacity. I think that by next year, next academic year, we're going to be at or higher than the pre-pandemic levels. Okay, we're doing okay. And so we're not going to suffer from any kind of budgetary implications. We have union members here, we're not going to lay off anybody. we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine, okay? But we're not interested just in us being fine. We want to make sure that our kids are fine. We want to make sure the community is fine. Okay, so that's a big strategy that we have. And the other thing is access with equity means, I think we did that when we saw during the pandemic, we lost close to 20% of our population. So we said, who did we lose? Okay, we need to dig deep into the data to find out what segments of our population are expressing disproportionate hardships. And we were not surprised. But in the recovery, we're proud that our Hispanic population is recovering extremely well. Okay, we're doing extremely well. The African American population is not recovering as well. What's very interesting is that the Caucasian population is not recovering well also. Okay, so for me, that these two are problems we need to address. Many times we are conditioned to think that if you are not black and brown, you don't have any problems. And those are very, very false assumptions. We have people from every group that are struggling. And it's our duty to find out why are these segments dropping off. What is it that we need to do to retain them? So yeah, I think that we're going to do that. And in addition to that, we should look at our special populations. And by special populations, I mean we need to look at veterans. We're winding, at least I believe we are winding wars in the world, and most of our military are coming home. It's a big challenge to try to get them integrated into a productive, happy civilian life. Rate of suicide is extremely high amongst our veterans. They find it very difficult to navigate through all the bureaucracies. So we have led almost in the nation, we have led in going and working very closely with the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans in trying to understand any kind of course our veterans have taken and converted it into units. So today, every veteran can complete, we can transfer almost 30 units, 1 year of community college from their prior experience, and finish an associate degree in 1 year, and then go on to get their bachelor's degree in the remaining 2 years. Their GI Bill is only 3 years. Okay? And so we believe that this has been a very successful, very productive. It has really relieved them from a great deal of stress and trauma. And 70 community colleges in California have adopted the same thing that we have developed. And we have handed over this to the State Chancellor's office to complete it statewide. We have been in Washington recently, and we have asked Mark Tucano and Ken Calvert, a Republican and a Democrat, to have a bipartisan bill so they can have a piece of legislation that would require appropriation, where there is money for this type of work to be given to the Department of Labor, so we don't have to apply for money every year. So that's going good. So I think that we're doing well with that segment of our population. Now we have, probably after Los Angeles and San Bernardino, we have the largest foster youth in California. Okay? And of all the groups of population that we have, all of them, the foster youth are the most disadvantaged of any group. This is a population that have been tossed from home to home, that have no stable place, and ultimately they end up either in jail or homeless. So from a point of view of equity, for me, these are probably the most important populations that we need to pay attention to. So we've been working with the city of Riverside for quite some time now, and I don't see Dr. Farida here, she's been leading this. And so we have a project that we said we were going to have a place. Original thought was we're going to have a place where they live. It's never going to be called a shelter. It's going to be a home that they own. So we'll get our culinary students to help them learn how to cook, how to manage their place. So they will collectively own the place, and we will be supported with every kind of support that we can provide them. Okay, every kind of support, with counseling, with tutoring, so that we guarantee that they will be successful, so that they will get out of homelessness, get out of poverty irreversibly, whether through a career technical education or a transfer. So after the place was designed, people wanted to have a name for it, and the name that was given to it was Aspire. Okay, Aspiring for a better life. So it's going to be over soon. It's a small one at the beginning, about 35 beds in it, and it's in the middle of town. So I think that we've begun to address it, and of course the other foster youth that we have here will fit into the larger dorm, the 655-bed dorm that is being built in UCR. They'll be able to meet with 6, be settled with all students there. Now, then we have a population. I don't know if anybody knows that, but China and India have a population that's 3 to 4 times larger than we are. We in the United States can pride over many things. We're the wealthiest, we are the most powerful, we're the most educated. One thing we can't be proud of is we have the largest prison system in the world. Almost shameful. No one can be proud of that. We have the largest prison system. Now, when you look at the community college student, the apportionment you get per one student is about 10,000 per year for that student. If you are a K-12, you get close to 14,000. If you are a Cal State student, you get close to 19,000. If you are a UC student, you get about 35,000. Okay, 4 times us. If you are in prison, you know how much money is spent per year? 80,000. Okay. For every prisoner, we could train 8 students. That's how resource is vandalized. Okay. So people are there for the right reason, sometimes for the wrong reason. They discovered that they were the wrong people after 20, 30 years. You can't recover unwind time lost. And they're simply thrown out into the community. They don't know how to fit into that community after so many years of prison, and they end up coming back to prison. So we started a program to train people while they are in prison. I don't know how many of you know how difficult it is. 1, you have to be clear. 2, they have to take away everything, including a phone, and you can't have anything electronic to go there. And so I've been there a few times. I mean, the first thing that you struck is that they look very much like our students. Okay? It's the same class. So at one point in time, I was talking to a senator, and I said that the prison, the community college, is treated like a humane prison. And she was shocked. She asked me to explain. And I said, well, when I described for you the funding, we've given the lowest funding, less than an elementary school. So I said, why? So I said, when I go to the prisons, I see the people in the prison look very much like the students that we have. They have no advocacy. If you go to the K-12, who is in the K-12? They're my kids, your kids, the governor's kids, the mayor's kids, the supervisor's kids, everybody's kids. They have huge political power. Nobody will be able to tamper with that. If you go to the K-12, if you go to the state, they are middle class. Okay? Lots of people who have been educated having their kids go to the Cal State. And if you go to the UC system, it's the upper middle class. Okay? They convinced the legislature without the UC system, California doesn't exist. And they have power. So that's why I say these are people we have created a different kind. If you are very cynical, and sometimes I am, I say the people that depend on us are trapped in an economic and social prison. Okay? We need to liberate them out of that. This is why I'm always campaigning against poverty. That we need to get people out of poverty. Poverty is not genetic. It's something that we created. And then we have to make a deliberate effort to release that energy. We have so many creative, so many dynamic, so many diverse young population in the Inland Empire that live in poverty. They don't need to live in poverty. In fact, this is the future of California. The coastal areas are aging. People are millionaires and billionaires, but they're going away. The future of this fourth largest global economy is us. So it's very important that we're looking at everything with the lens of equity. So during about, I think 2 weeks ago, I was in the prison in Corona, in Norco, and there were 4 legislators who came to see that. And we are collaborating very closely with the Department of Correctional Rehabilitation, which is the polite name for the prison system. And I must give a whole lot of credit to the warden. They converted the prison almost into a campus that looks very much like us. You know, they had a recreation room, you know, a small gym, a library. And what was really, you know, impressive and emotionally moving is when some of these prisoners have completed, graduated, until they are released, they work in the prisons. They run all kinds of things for them. And they were making their case of how much they regretted, you know, for coming to prison and what their aspiration in life is. Some of them have graduated with a bachelor's degree. One of them has been to Uganda on a Fulbright. You know, and I had a good time because I know what I've been to Uganda myself. So, you know, and you see how life and hope can be injected into people who probably had lost everything. And so the prison in Norco has a population of 3,200, and right now 1,000 of them want to apply to enroll. Imagine, that's like 30%. If we can have 30% of all the population here want to apply, not even have college degrees or college education, that would be fantastic. So we worked with the legislature to introduce a piece of legislation and appropriation to see if they can increase our funding. Because you can't do very much in the prisons. You can't bring computers, you can't bring, you know, and so you have to have an innovative way, and we don't have enough money. So that's one way. All right. We have almost 2,500 disabled students at RCCD. We don't want any student to be left out or left behind because of disability. That's part of our equity commitment. And we have far too many students with neurological problems like autism that we are unable to support. And I've had a number of parents, and in particular one very highly educated mom whose daughter, is suffering from autism. She's been to Washington, she's been to Sacramento, she's met with people, she's been on my door, challenging me that we need to do something. And I promise that we'll try. And I give her an assignment to look what college has it so I can learn from it. She's very clever. She can do the research and come back with the data. So you can't just send her away. Okay? And I so much appreciate her. So finally we applied for a grant to try to build capacity to expand our capacity to serve the disabled students. And very recently we got $1 million just to do that. And so I called her back, and she brought in other people who know some of the subject, and she was just emotionally overwhelmed that we took her seriously, we worked at it, and we did it. But it shouldn't take. She worked for 2 years knocking on my door. It shouldn't take that kind of, we need to rise up. We need to develop that sensitivity of where else is inequity so that we can, address it without anyone pushing us to do that. All right, enough about, I can't cover everything about access, but these are all issues of access. Now, the next thing for us next year is success. We are considered one of the successful community colleges in the state of California, but it's not enough. Our strategic plan said that we should increase our success by 15% every year, so that every 5 years we can double our success rate. Okay, that's the goal. Now, we did the first 2-3 years, because we had lots and lots of people who have actually completed the degree and they didn't even know that. They were still sitting here. So we have to identify them and get them out of the system. And then we doubled and tripled our success rate, and we claimed that we were successful. Now we were not. So when we did the right thing, we now find out that it's not easy. So as a good chemist, I looked at the success path of the multi-step system. You have to pass a number of courses. All of them must add up and graduate. In a multi-step system, the slowest step determines the rate of the whole reaction. Okay? So we found out the slowest step in the student success path is mathematics. If they don't get the math, they can't get the degree anyhow. So we've been battling with that. We've created a math institute, we've met with all the math faculty, we're trying to find, different innovative ways of helping students to pass math. And so that's ongoing. We've succeeded very well in English. And so we still have that goal, that ambition, that we would like to double our success rate every 5 years. Next week, one of the best ways to improve success rate, obviously, is to scale the guided pathway. And the core principle in the guided pathway is clarifying the path. Okay, clarifying the path. Imagine the guided pathway like you go to one of the most gigantic railway stations with 200 platforms, and you then try to find it yourself. So there has to be some system. If you're going to the east, no doubt, all the platforms east are on this side. All the platforms going west are on that side. All the platforms going north are on that side. All platforms going out of the United States are on this side. So then you narrow the confusion. So when you are in the east side, you still want to know whether you want to go to Boston or whatever, and then you narrow those possibilities. So that's how the guided pathways work. You don't throw everybody into the main football field and ask them to escape from any gate. So we need to identify, we need to clarify the path that becomes clear to anyone. And one of the most clearest paths that we have in this college is the path to nursing. When a student goes into the nursing training, there are no left or right. There are no, choices. I can do this. I can wait till next year. No. That training is at full speed. And the students know the entrance requirement and the exit requirement. And it's very crystal clear to the student, to everybody. We may not be able to do that with every general education course, but we need to do that. We can't have too many associate degrees confusing the students. Associate degree with areas of emphasis, associate degree in any of the city by just adding 18 units of this. We need to be very clear. So the ADT is the best path that has been determined by law, that the Cal States are forced to accept it. We're trying to get the UC system to also accept it. So our students don't have to prepare in one direction for UCLA, but another direction for Cal Berkeley, a different way for UCR. You can't have a student be subject to that kind of confusion. So this year, we're going to try to streamline things, expand the ADTs, and diminish all those distractions. But that means now there are courses, there are programs where they have no ADTs. So we're going to be working with the department chairs, connect them to the department chairs of the recipient institution like Cal State or UCR to tailor-make something that looks very much like ADT. That's agreed upon by both, so we can put the plans together. The other area where we are going to be very active this year is in advocating for guaranteed dual admission. What does that mean? A student will be admitted to RCC, but also guaranteed to be admitted to UCR, or guaranteed to be admitted to Cal State. Which means that provided his or her GPA remains at this level, they don't have to apply. They can just continue, move on to UCR or move on to. So depending on the student's level of ambition, we can do that. So that's one topic they're talking about. The Cal State have no problem. The UCs have some challenges that we have to work out. So that will really help a student to save 2 years of tuition money. The student and the parent, 2 years of tuition money, and they know full well that all their courses are planned to take him directly to UCR. So they can finish 2 years here, 2 years in UCR, or 2 years in any other UC and graduate. Okay? Now, we don't have the guarantees. But I remember giving this talk to counselors, and so one counselor asked me, "Do you have kids?" I said, "Yes." "So tell me, where is your kid going to school now?" And so, of course, my first kid went to UCR. He refused to come here. We had a big fight. He said, "Dad, you're only trying to save money." And I said, "Why?" Because the counselors told him, "You're so good, you don't go to community college. Okay? If you're very good, go to the UC. If you are good, but not that good, go to the Cal State. If you are no good, you have no place to go to RCC." That's exactly what he was told. So in spite of my fighting with him, he refused. He went to UCR. Then I had a second son, and we came to the same debate. I had to bribe him. I bought him one new car so he can come here. Okay? I'm not joking. He came here, he finished in 2 years with great distinction, and went to UCLA and finished political science with distinction. Okay? Right now he's accepted to his PhD at UCLA and at Davis. So I went back to the counselor and I said, "This works. We're not making it up, it works." And it helps to tell people, "I've tried with my own kid." Okay? It gives credence. When you say, "I've convinced my kid to do it," and it gets successful. So it's very important for us to convince the parents. And very important for us to convince the counselors that we live in an economically disadvantaged communities. People are poor. And in poor communities, they have many more kids. The richer you are, the less number of children you have. Okay? And so you have 3, 4 kids. It's impossible for them to afford to send them to UCR or to any other place. So I think that we need to be able to do that a lot. This year 2004, championed by the nurses, is going to be a year for the baccalaureate degree. Okay, every president has been now told that we need to look very seriously what programs can we move to a baccalaureate degree. Now, for those, in the Cal State system, they might think that we are trying to be too ambitious. We are trying to go beyond our own, mission into their mission creep they call it. That you should stay in your lane, this is our lane. And they've been fighting that, very effectively for some time. But what we now realize is that they do not have the capacity to meet the challenge, to meet the goal, to meet the gap. They don't have. In the case of BSNs, yes, there's a huge demand, bachelor degree of nursing, and that demand is being filled by private colleges. Because the Cal State can only produce about 34% of that demand by private colleges at $155,000 per degree. Okay, when we could probably offer that for $15,000. So it becomes an equity issue. You're creating an economic barrier. Okay, that's another way of discrimination. You create an economic barrier because people will say, "Well, I can't afford it." That's the first response, and they are so desperate to get it. If they have to do it, they have to be in debt. So why do we need to do that when we have the capacity, when we have all the infrastructure needed to do that? So we're pushing a big fight. I can't say that we are going to win. I thought that my friends in the Cal State would be angry at me, so I met with Kamas and we gave each other a hug, and I said everything is going well. I said, "Thanks for your collaboration," and he just looked at me and didn't say anything bad. Okay? I hope they can see that we are not trying to compete with them. We're trying to collaborate with them. I'm trying to convince them by having us to collaborate with them to expand their capacity, our joint capacity to produce more PSNs. They might have more capacity now to move on to an MSN and a doctoral degree. So that way they can see the benefit of us filling in some of the other parts so that they can have more time to do the higher levels. So I'm very hopeful that we'll get that done, but there are curricula available in the rest. Like if you want to do an automotive, there's already an automotive curricula available, and we have to look at the HVAC, we have to look at, in Marine One we have plenty, the fire technology, the emergency management, the dental hygiene, are all candidates for a bachelor's degree where the curricula has been developed in other parts of the community college system. So it's an issue of equity and access because students in our city usually do not think about going to a bachelor's degree. When you have it right in the backyard, right there, and ask them to transfer to a bachelor's degree, they almost double their salaries. So that's going to be a good thing. Now, I don't know how I'm doing with time. Yeah, I have a little thing like that. In student success, my concept is that this college and this district is as strong as the strength of its departments. The departments are the core building academic blocks of the whole institution. You can have wonderful administrators, you can have wonderful, I mean, everybody is important, wonderful classified staff. You don't have the departments, you don't have a district. You'd be grounded on a very shallow foundation. So it's very important for us to strengthen the department. Nursing is strong because it's grounded in that department. They own it. They know their students, they know their program, they know their budgets. Okay? And a nursing student has a very strong sense of belongingness and a sense of pride. Okay? You ask a student in chemistry, I'm a chemist, I usually, like to point out the political science people, but I can put chemistry. Ask a student in chemistry and said, go to the Department of Chemistry, how many students do you have? They don't know. They don't meet with the chemistry major. They're overwhelmed with the service they provide. Oh, we have students who are interested to go to nursing, students interested to go to... It's a service course. Beyond that, they should recruit chemistry majors who are going to be chemists. Department of English is a service department. They should train, they should recruit English majors. Mathematics should have math majors, and so on and so forth. So we need to strengthen those departments. And we are trying to do that now. We have created a department chairs retreat, so that department chairs can have, ownership of their students. They go out and recruit students. If you are near my office now, you'll see thousands and thousands of high school students performing in the Coyle School for the Art. Because they bring about 10,000 students every year for rehearsals, for this and for that, and therefore they have no problem recruiting students. So aggressive departments can go to the high schools, they can have a departmental day for people to come and see, this is what we do in our department, this is the kind of activities we have, the kind of research we have, so that students can be enthused about coming, but also enthused about having a sense of belongingness. You can't just belong to an entire campus. There must be a home there. Okay? It's the lack of that home that makes all black students must have an emoji homeroom. Hispanic students, imagine, 64% of our students are Hispanic, and they would like to have a small place called La Casa. The entire campus should be La Casa. Okay? So you push students into desperate situations in search of a safe haven where they feel safe. Those departments should be the ones. Department chairs should know their budget. We have now a transparent budget allocation system. When the enrollment goes up, they have a right to ask for more money. When the enrollment is going down, I'm going to take the money. Yeah. So you now have much better control. You can plan your 5-year plans with some kind of certainty and assurance. So that's the direction in which we'll be going. Equity and support. So how do we support this whole good ideas that we have? We're going to expand. We're going to do all this kind of things that I said. We're going to look at all those students who are falling, 45% of them falling away. We're going to try to bring them, all the special groups. How are we going to support them? Well, one, I think that we need to look at institutional effectiveness. We should, because many times we do waste some things. So in institutional effectiveness, I'm trying to move now all the offices that I have, all the vice chancellors, whether they are for HR, for finance, for ed services, for advancements, to see how efficient are we in the provision of support services. How efficient? And efficiency is a measure of speed, of time. How efficient? Are we efficient in our procurement? Are we efficient in our hiring practices? Are we efficient in getting grants? Are we efficient in our teaching? Okay. The second is, how effective are we? Effectiveness, you can be very efficient and efficiently wrong, right? I'm not joking. It only means you move fast, but maybe moving in the wrong direction. Okay? And you can say that you've gained a lot of efficiency, but you end up in the wrong destination. So effectiveness is how well do we achieve our goals. So you all can say, oh, he talked about all kinds of things. These are all, highfalutin stuff. They're dreams. They're never going to come true. Then you have no confidence in the plan. Okay? Why? Because the plan is not achievable in your mind. A goal must be stated in a very clear, unambiguous, in measurable, achievable terms. If anyone says, well, I'm the Chancellor, I'll make sure that everybody has community college level education. That's a slogan. That's not a plan. Okay? That's a slogan. Because a plan, a goal, is time-bound. Time-bound. It's 5 years. In 5 years, what can we realistically do? And then we have to have strategies to get to where we want to be. We said we were going to double our enrollment rate in 5 years. We're going to increase our enrollment by 3% every year. We actually did those. We're very close in doing them, and we monitor every year to see, did it go well, did it not go well? If it didn't go well, why not? What do we need to tie in? How do we need to improve? Okay? So effectiveness is to be measured continuously to see, are we achieving? The third principle in institutional effectiveness is accountability. We need to have, every one of you must be accountable, including me. So I'm accountable to the trustees, but I'm also accountable to everyone. Okay? It's that transparent, that we need to be accountable. You can't be living off other people's work. A strategic plan, a good strategic plan, one of its attributes, it has a very clear delegation of responsibilities. Everyone is a part of that planning process. So when the plan is concluded, we'll say, Michael, this is yours. You're in charge of that. Okay? Ajane is in charge of this. Terry, she's in charge of that. And now somebody should be holding people accountable. Maybe actually achieve what we said we can achieve. So you create a multiplier effect. If all the work is running around me, it doesn't matter how bright and how energetic I could be working 24 hours, I can't achieve that much. I'm only one person. When you create a machinery of delegation of responsibility, you create a multiplier effect. A multiplier effect of so many people engaged, moving the thing in the same direction. So if I have 100 people, then it's not 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 100. Just think of what I said earlier. All of them moving in the same direction, it's going to be maybe equal to 150. That's how we build institutions. So we're going to start talking about, are we accountable? And the last part, of course, is, are we transparent? Why must we be transparent? Because we are funded by the taxpayers' money. We have to be accountable to tell them. I always say the community has given us the most precious thing they have. What's more precious than our own child? They've entrusted their kids to us. We need to be accountable. We have to be able to stand up and say, we've provided them with affordable, high-quality education. so that they can reach their fullest potential. It's very important that the community trusts us. I think in many ways the community, we are lucky. I go in the community a lot. You know, I was in the Rotary and I was so amazed. I thought I would inform them about RCC. They informed me about the history of RCC. There was one who went to school in 1947 when RCC was in Poly. Yeah, and they said, you know, how it was, and they're so amazed now when they drive, it looks like a big university. The community has very high expectation of us, and we have to live up to that expectation. And you know, the last time I showed you the slides in terms of how we are going to go to inform the community, I want every one of you to go and use those slides and talk in your churches, in your social clubs, in wherever, so that everybody knows about who we are and what we can provide. Equity in support, basic needs. It is a shame. I don't know how to say this. It is a shame for one of the most powerful, wealthiest, most educated nation on this planet that our own kids go to school without food, go to school without shelters, that people want to sleep in our parking lots, that legislators will even dream. We met in Sacramento, you know, Assembly Member Corey Jackson from Moreno Valley, putting in a bill to allow students to sleep in our parking lots. I said, it's disgusting. Okay? I mean, I just looked at him and I said, look at the two of us. If people like us will be sleeping on our parking lot, and you're saying we don't deserve a bed in a house? Yeah, that's where we are. So we need to do everything. Today I'm going to visit what Riverside is doing. I've been in every campus trying to see how people are trying to help people find food and then talk vouchers. There's a whole lot of difficulties we don't know about. Yeah. Some people are going through very, very difficult path just to be able to escape poverty. So we were told at the state that only 39% or so of our students are accessing Pell Grant. And so California is leaving close to some $50-some million on the table because we have qualified students who should get the Pell Grant who are not getting the Pell Grant because of the formality or the paper or whatever is complicated. So we need to help our students get access to that because Pell Grant is a lot of money. And then we need to expand apprenticeship. The apprenticeship is a very good instrument for removing barriers because apprenticeship allows students to learn while they are learning. And therefore it removes a number of hurdles in terms of financial aid. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say. And then the aspect of equity in support is something that is going to be a big campaign, not just for Riverside. I'm trying to work very hard to work with the entire state so that the funding for the community colleges is at least at par with the K-12. If they would give us the same as the K-12, it would add to our pot $5 billion. That's how much we are achieving. So that's going to be, at least for me, you know, a big challenge to work with all the other CEOs to work for that. So we got plenty of work to do next year, or this year. These are all the items that I think we should attack this year, and I have full confidence that we can get most of it done. Okay, I think I'll stop here and ask. I'm sure you're all worried, oh, he's going to give us more work. Yes, every time I'm here, I'm giving you more work. But that's the excitement of working at RCC. Any question or comment? Yes, please. Go ahead.
So I was really intrigued when you were talking about trying to gather all the unified school districts in our service area to talk to them and try to get encourage their students to attend RCCE. But you also mentioned like, I think it was like 10 to 15% of our students come from San Bernardino, and you're trying to meet with those boards as well. I was wondering.
It can be hard meeting with those boards because they have a different structure.
Yeah.
So we're going to climb. The first thing is we're going to meet with these 6 here. Then we're going to meet with Mount San Jacinto, with College of the Desert, so that at least we have all the ones in Riverside that respond to the superintendent for schools for Riverside County.
Okay.
The other line is now, there is another, superintendent for the county of San Bernardino. We have to start working with them and with the other community colleges at a much later stage.
Yeah, because that's the question that I had, is that I mean, from my positionality, so I don't see it as well as you do, but it seems like there's not a lot of good collaboration amongst community college districts. It's like your service area is like gold, and we aren't allowed to go into other community college district service areas, just like they're not allowed to come into ours. However, students don't see it that way. And if 10 to 15% of our students are coming from San Bernardino Community College District area, then it's for a reason. And I'm just curious if there's work that's been done so that there's better collaboration across districts, so that we can really serve the students as a whole better as a system.
We do. So we have what is called Growing Land Achievement, GIA. So the GIA is made up of a board that's the two leaders of the Cal State and the UCR, myself, the Chancellor for Cal State San Bernardino, and the present superintendent of Shafee, the two superintendent for the county of Riverside and county of San Bernardino, and then we have a couple of people from the NGO community, the Inland Empire Economic whatever, and then the IEP, Inland Empire Economic Partnership, and then the Desert Consortium. So that's the board.
Yeah.
So we do meet, but of course, people are very territorial, and so we talk a lot about collaboration, expansion, and then people will say, well, you came to my territory, you came to this. The same thing now we are talking about the nursing program with the Cal State, okay? So you have to navigate very carefully. I mean, I'm optimistic that at some point you can level and show people it doesn't make sense, that we need to work together and expand the work. I don't care if my students from this area go there. All I care is that I don't want to have a very large number of students who are not having access to higher education. But if I said that in my region, instead of 45%, I can reduce that number who's not going anywhere to 30%, I'm fine. Even when they are going to Mount San Jacinto or Desert or any place. If I can work with my board to work with the parents to encourage their children to go to school, and they go to school, but they choose not to come here, but they go to some other place, that's fine. So we have to create that level of appreciation, that we're not about helping ourselves, it's about helping the students. Okay? But you guys are going to have a lot of work to be done when we start assembling these teams. We're going to have all the data to be able to convey to them the magnitude and gravity of the situation. We have to say exactly how many students are graduating, exactly how many students are going where, exactly how many students are going nowhere, exactly how many students are transferring to the UCR, what percentage of UCR students are from this region, and what percentage are from some other place. So that we have to see the real situation and say, this situation is not acceptable. So in establishing that as an agenda to rally around everyone, all our institutional researchers are going to be mobilized to produce a solid data for us. Okay. So you get more work by asking questions. Any other comment? Yes, please.
Hi. So the conversation after the presentation from all the board members and yourself as well. So we want to have a family, a student parent or family resource center, given the data that we have a lot of parenting students, and if we help the parents, student parents, we're going to be able to help their children who will in the future, or not so far distant future, be students at RCC. So like you were very supportive at the meeting, and who can I contact, or who would be the person to talk to about having this become a reality? And like, I know there are a lot of special populations, as you mentioned, but like logistically or realistically, with all the like funding and space and everything that is required for this project, what time frame do you believe this would become a reality, and if it would become a reality at RCC?
Sure. Well, the president of RCC is listening. So I think no question in terms that I identify with the problem. I can see it's a challenge, and it is something that we need to support. Okay, there's no question about that. And I think no question about any of the board members, you know, that many of the parents, students, especially those who don't have child care, you know, possibilities, that they need some support. That's extremely important. Now, you know, in the good book, it says that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. What that means is that our limiting factor is the space. I think you yourself are students here, so I'm not going to tell you something you don't know already. If you go to where we have our basic skills, you will see the limitation of space. If you go to each of these other groups, you can see the limitations of space that we have. And so it's finding the space that's going to be the challenge. Finding the support, solidarity, whatever other means that we can give the support, I think that is probably going to be easier. So we need to work together so that you can identify how else, until the space is available, how else can you feel the support? You need to work in a community, in a college, that you feel you belong, that you feel they understand the challenge that you have. They are prepared to find a solution. And I think that door you have opened already. And so I think that the student services at the college and your group should have meetings. Yeah, because you cannot be different than any of the other groups I've told now. Okay, so we have the veterans, we have the foster, we have the disabled, we also have you, and so now you're added into that list, and the door for that communication is open. Okay, so I don't want to be promising you things that are not that easy, but when you presented it, it became crystal clear that we have been negligent. Yeah. Yes, please.
So thank you very much for sharing all that. That's very helpful. I think we all definitely share that idea. What I really appreciated about what you said, and I think this connects with what I said brought up, is about this place being a home for folks, right? This place being a place where people feel safe. And I just wanted to bring to your attention, there was an incident that happened on campus this week that has left a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my students very rattled. I guess there was an off-campus group that came onto campus and was engaged in a lot of activities that were provoking both students and faculty and staff as well. And so I met with, I've been fielding calls and emails and texts from my colleagues that are concerned about their own safety on this campus. And what I've come to discover is that this is just one in a series of ongoing incidents that a lot of our faculty and our community members actually haven't really elevated because they're concerned for their own safety. And so just to kind of sum it up for folks who might not know, there was an anti-abortion group, or at least that's what their claim was. But they were doing some very provocative activities and propaganda, and they were actively filming and there's been attempts online to identify the folks that they filmed. And I guess the concern I'm raising specifically is when a lot of our faculty members reached out to say, well, how do we address this? Because we also, on one hand, want to protect free speech, but on the other hand, protect the safety and security of our campus, is that the call every single time was call the police, call the police, call the police. When the police were there and dismissed them, and I think, you know, I'll say this, like you said about more work, I don't complain about things unless I'm willing to put the work in, but I think that we really need to start thinking of ways that we can support our students that involve non-police-based interventions, that they can feel safe, especially when we look at these groups like undocumented populations, our justice impacted populations, our low income communities. Police is not a viable option for looking to help. I mean, that wasn't even a viable option when I had to call them to get a door unlocked, you know, and 45 minutes of class will be gone. And so thinking about those different types of strategies, I think is going to be really, really important, particularly with recruitment. And I'll make the connection there, is that a couple of my colleagues were saying that they had done some work with some of our local schools, especially when it came to outreach and student life and clubs and activities. There was one instance in particular where some of our faculty were meeting with some of the Gay Straight Alliances and the Pride groups at different of our schools. And they were saying that they're having a hard time recruiting students because there is an overwhelming sense beyond our campus, but in a larger community, about safety. And these students don't want to be involved in any clubs that they feel are currently putting a target on their back, or just their visibility is putting a target on their back. And I see a direct line with that and being able to recruit students as well. When it was one comment, I don't know that this is an overwhelming sense, but RCC, this was one high school student said, RCC seems like a very dangerous place. And because of the already hostilities that they're facing in their own in their high school communities, and they're worried about even less safety moving on. I mean, it marks a big milestone for a lot of students, right? When they go to college, right? This is the time that they have a lot more freedom and independence, they're moving out of their houses. And I think that's one of the concerns I think we also, in terms of, you know, obviously all of these things, the apprenticeship programs, different types of student programming and creating spaces, but I also think making sure that this is a safe space is something that we're going to have to necessarily address sooner than later. And like I said, a lot of the things that were raised to me indicated that, and my kind of lack of awareness of what's happening around, I was a little bit shocked to realize how many incidents have been happening over the last couple of years. Posters for like lavender graduation being stolen, like hateful propaganda being posted, that students are being active and pulling it down, but that they don't even feel comfortable raising the issue that this needs to be addressed because they're afraid it's going to put more of a target on their back. And so I just wanted to raise this issue. I mean, this is certainly not a blaming issue, but really thinking about moving forward how we need to be very creative.
But it's real.
Yeah.
So I think that what we need to do is face what is real and what kind of pronouncements that we make, what kind of stand that we have, what position that we have as an institution is when we speak. Because I can't go and tell them we've wiped out any loophole. No, we'll have no accident, we have no nothing. It's not possible to do that because all campuses throughout the United States are going through this, okay? So relative to most campuses in the United States, we are a very safe place. We haven't had incidences. The worst case that was planned against us was the San Bernardino terrorist activity. I was a president here then, you know, and it was about 3 a.m. when I was, you know, awoken to say that there was a terrorist attack. And so my immediate mind went to say, if this is a terrorist, then you must have a base at RCC. Okay? That's how cells normally work. So from my life experience, that's what I said. And Michael Barker, the president, he said, oh, no. I said, you're too pessimistic. It can't be that. And so we were called at 10 o'clock by the FBI. And so he told them that I thought if it is a terrorist activity, it must have a cell here. Because immediately I took action to find out all the clubs. and what they stand for, and what kind of group they were. We had 55 clubs. So the FBI director, the FBI guy from Southern California looked at me and said, why would you say that? I said, well, that's normally how these cells work. What is surprising to me, though, is that they didn't do it here. And he said, you're exactly right. They were planning to blow Landis, the cafeteria, and the library. They bought all the weapons. And then the Southern California FBI group, found a leak and tried to, jail some people. So when they found out that their network was being compromised, they went into an event in San Bernardino, and only one of them did that and just blew the whole place. So, have we had that here? Yeah, we did that. There was another one who wants to blow Norco. The same kind of intervention. The FBI saw from communication, they suspected that there was someone who might want to blow Norco, so we evacuated Norco. And then finally they found out exactly where that guy lived, and they found weapons. Okay? So we communicate a lot, and you have to use your police. So even for the undocumented, we have to instruct our police to not allow anyone from immigration to come on campus. They should not cooperate with them in identifying students and handing them over. Okay? And so you have to alert, these are community police, they are our police. So I think that we have to continuously reassure the families that we're doing everything we can, and that they should support us by informing us with anything they hear, so that we can be even more prepared. But these are going to be real challenges, and I think that, yes, please.
Yeah, first, thanks for raising and bringing it to our attention, and just want to build on what you're saying, Chancellor. I too was aware of the impact, just by way of a student complaint about the, reached out and hoping to convene with our president's leadership team and student services protocols for when controversial groups come on campus, or groups that come on campus that disrupt the educational environment. Because yes, we have a free speech area, or we have free speech spaces. We want to follow the law of free speech, and we also want to uphold education code and our ed code and our students' rights and responsibilities and the ethics code that we follow as employees, to ensure that it is not a disruptive educational environment. So when that line is crossed, that's our purview. Free speech creates another purview, which is freedom to come on campus and do X, Y, or Z, but not freedom to disrupt or get in the way of someone's educational learning experience. So if there is a student being accosted or being blocked from going into an entrance, being reported without permission, we want to do our best to prepare and remind our campus community to not engage, because it's a tactic, it's a setup to put us further in harm's way and get people on video that are doing what exactly they want to be done. So I'm convening a group to discuss the freedom of speech and plans for when they arrive on campus, so we can also alert health services and counseling faculty when individuals feel triggered by those images. And this is happening regionally and across the country. I experienced it firsthand in Sacramento, in Oregon, and Virginia. And so there are protocols and procedures we can put into place to ensure we have a response that's coordinated and student-centered and employee-centered for safety. We cannot say go away, but what we can say is you may have potentially violated a college or district policy by interrupting or blocking a student or employee in a learning environment, for example. So more to come, and I'll let you know when we convene the campus climate safety coordination. And then related to that, I recently had an opportunity to meet with the Equity-Minded Leadership Institute about proposed anti-bias training. And my feedback was yes, and how do we broaden this to incorporate it into a suite of offerings, including reporting when there are incidents of hate or bias on campus. And that requires a coordinated effort with our police department, with our chief colonel. I too this week was a bystander. I stood by on behalf of 2 students who had a medical emergency. And so I'll be following up with key leadership on a response and how we create a community of concrete care when there's a medical condition that happens in the middle of campus or in an elevator, and that the police don't always have to be alone as the first responders, but maybe there's a deployment of campus advocates, because it was telling, my experience bearing witness and interacting with our police department when the student was in need and in crisis. And I've had really good conversations, productive and positive conversations with Chief Cano, with Vice Chancellor Brown, and with our deployed college police around what it means to be a community of care while also being a deputy task officer. And then with regards to the Student Scholars Parent Network, as you know, I reached out to suggest that we meet. I look forward to coming to the next Zoom meeting. I saw Miriam on campus yesterday with her children, and I was walking with Dean Cruz Soto, and we're exploring an opportunity to partner with Dean Yates and Early Childhood Development Center to host a family-friendly event. That just happened yesterday, so more to come to the 2 of you on how we might make that happen, and I do look forward to attending a Zoom meeting soon. Thank you.
All right. So I think that we're going to have more of this, especially as the elections are coming. Because things go crazy with the elections, and so we should be prepared, but we should try to get our students to calm down. There was a time, I think, when I was here, the Muslim Student Association wanted to invite a speaker, and so they felt that the speaker was connected to a terrorist group and that, and everybody was agitated, and they didn't want the speaker to come. And I said, well, look, he's attached to a terrorist organization. We have professionals who won't even allow him to come here. And so I said, we'll follow the protocols. He's going to have his audience. Nothing is going to happen, and nothing happened actually. And then there was this problem of people not able to worship. Because, they want to pray at certain hours, and they put their floor mat on the corridor, and people mock them and send that. So I said, okay. So I designated in the all student services 1 room, and I call it place of worship. Denomination. So if you are a Muslim, you can read on a Friday. If you are a Seventh-day Adventist, you do it on a Saturday. If you are a Christian, you can read it on Sunday. So people would have keys and book it and use it. Now, there was so much agitation that people were being discriminated for this and for that. We created the room, and then its use vanished after a few. They used it maybe less than a semester, and then nobody wanted to use it. Okay, so sometimes it's just us, getting those feelings slightly calmer, and not. Sometimes we agitate it even more. If the leadership, if the faculty, and everyone, gets ruffled up by some of these, then the students will get crazy. If we say, look, things will be in control. And we have to train our police to expect this thing. They are actually trained, but we have to let them know how. With health services, they are good. They call, 911 or get the fire, the ambulance to come and take them. We've had that throughout the system. But with people threatening, we've had people who are, there was a person who was mentally disturbed, and he was in Oliver Thompson's class, and he wanted to kill someone. And so, they moved him out, and he came to my office, and poor Michelle was my secretary, and he said, no, we have to call the police. I said, just let him in, And we chatted, and I said, look, I'm your friend. Tell me what you want me to do, I'll pay for you. And he said he couldn't pay for his transcript. I said, I'll pay for you. was only $75. And finally, I mean, he calmed down to a point where he started apologizing for being abusive, and you know, it was to Michelle, my secretary. So I said, I'll wait for you here, go and apologize, and I'll come back. And he did that, and she couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. So sometimes I think that we need to stay calm. We need to stay calm. We should be part of the calming effect, you know, so that, you know, we can help the situation, because it's beyond our control. We're going to have more of this coming. And the more that we mentally and psychologically are prepared for it, the better it's going to be.
And I would just add, and people need training on how to remain calm, right? And support. And I think that's what some of the entities you're all involved in help us identify is those professional development opportunities. So I appreciate that.
Okay? Now, back to the salt mine.